Let's begin with breaking updates now coming in. The US President Donald Trump has sent a letter to the Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney informing him that he will impose a 35% tariff on imports from the country starting the 1st of August. In the letter, which the president has published on his social network, Truth Social, he says there will be a 35% tariff. My colleague Srinjoy Chaudhary joins us on the broadcast. Srinjoy, good morning. And every morning it's the news from the United States of the tariff being imposed with Canada. It seems to have been set at 35%.
The tariff war with Canada continues, and currently it is 35%. The Canadians, of course, have an economy which is very integrated with the United States. Now, the problem is when cars by General Motors or Ford are made in Canada or partly made in Canada or have implements, components that are made in Canada and then are brought back to America, then there is 35% duty on them, tariff on them. If that happens, the prices of those cars go up. And if that happens, then the American consumer has to pay more for imports from Canada. So these are things that are of concern. The other concern is the fact that Canada exports a lot of petroleum to America. So machinery, petroleum, things like cars, which are jointly made in Canada and America. So if that is so, then the problem is the concern about inflation. Because once you have 35% tariff and the American consumer doesn't really have too many other places to go to, then there is a concern about inflation. And of course, trade ties could well take a nosedive. But how this will play out, we don't know. What we do know is that if you have 35% tariff suddenly imposed and a blanket 35% tariff, there is a possibility of inflation, particularly when you consider that there is similar tariff on material coming in from other countries, whether it's Korea, whether it's Japan, and other countries as well. America, let's not forget, is the world's largest importer. So once you put in all these tariffs together, the possibility of inflation is quite high.
Okay, all right. In fact, even close allies like Japan and Korea, like you mentioned, have not been spared this tariff war. And in fact, Trump has, while making this announcement as well, gone on to say that this is the result of the barriers that have been put forward by Canada. But Srinjoy, the wait for some of the other countries, including India, still continues. The negotiations are still going on. What are the sticking points for the trade negotiations with India, and when is that announcement likely to come in?
Let's not forget that India's per capita income is about $3,000. America's is about $70,000. And 60% of India, the poorer bits of India, are largely in the rural sector, are involved in agriculture. So that has to be kept in mind. They are involved in agriculture and to some extent dairy. Now, if you keep that in mind, then India believes that imports of American grain, American corn needs to be protected, restricted, because the Indian farmer also needs protection. That's a major issue that India is putting forward, because here are 60% of India that is dependent on agriculture. If you have imports of American grain, of wheat and corn and things like that, then it becomes very difficult for the Indian farmer. It's one thing to import California almonds and California wine, but wheat, grain, other things like other grains, other things like that become a worry for the Indian farmer. And that is something the Indian government is concerned about.
Okay, all right, Sanjay. So the wait continues. In the next few days, it is likely to be announced for India as well. For now, 35% tariff for Canada, with Trump saying that if there is any retaliation, that it could be increased. This current tariff comes into effect from the 1st of August. Thank you for joining us with those details. With that, let's shift our attention now, viewers. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has recently